Nightfall in Ferguson will undoubtedly bring more protesters to the streets as officers hope for the best and prepare for the worst. Joining me now from Southern California, retired gang detective and president of Officer Survival Solutions, Mark Berry. Hey, Mark, what's the latest on Ferguson, and could cops have done any better in this situation that we saw over the weekend?
Well, you know, the use of deadly force is the last thing a police officer wants to do. It's not fun. It's nothing that cops wish. It's last resort. And as the facts have shown, this suspect was actively firing on officers. They're going to defend themselves. You go toe-to-toe with a police officer, you're going to be on the ending, you're going to lose the battle every time. I mean, these guys aren't there to take rounds. These guys aren't there to lose their weapons in a fight. They're going to go home at night. And, you know, unfortunately, you have these violent criminals out there that are testing cops daily.
It seems to me that going out there the other night on the anniversary was one of the scariest things a police officer can do. Why? Because some of the protesters were going after the cops, coming right in their grills and yelling at them and yelling obscenities. And then you had the potential for someone like this Tyrone Williams to bring a gun and take pot shots at cops. It seems to me that gowning up for such an event would have been a very big task. Tell me, if you can, some of the things that the police department did to make sure they got all the evidence they needed in case somebody like Tyrone decided to take shots at them.
Well, you know, I mean, Ferguson's got a bigger problem than the police. I mean, a lot of people are saying it's a police problem. It's not. It's a cultural problem. You know, these inner city ghettos, it's not the police against the citizens of that community. It's the problems that are in that community. You know, I can say that I lived in the ghettos. I was raised in the ghetto. I worked the ghetto. I worked the ghetto as a patrol officer. I worked the ghetto as a gang detective. And, you know, I get it firsthand. You know, these officers, they move into areas like that. And again, you have the criminal element that takes advantage of these protests, peaceful protests. And they come out there and create violence, and they throw rocks and they throw bottles, and their target is the police. You know, it's been that way for years, and it's not going to change. Anytime you get these ghetto hood rats coming out of these holes, throwing rocks and bottles at the cops, you're going to have issues. You know, if these suspects are so bold to actually fire at one another across the street when you have 200-300 cops yards from you, it's a recipe for disaster.
I mean, all hell broke loose, and all of a sudden we see video of the man who's now been shot and in the hospital pulling a gun and then going toward wherever the chaos was. Kind of interesting. I've been to Ferguson, and I've walked along West Florissant, and, you know, honestly, it's not a ghetto. It's not like projects and, you know, all the things we conjure up from years gone by. It's actually a very nice little community, and there's an element in there that don't like cops, and they're making it tough for everybody else to lead a very peaceful life. One of the worst images from that time was seeing yellow police tape around a church. I mean, it was just gobsmacking. Now, didn't the Justice Department decide to come in and take over the cop shop in Ferguson and tell them what to do? What happened to that? And how could such a thing have happened, somebody getting shot, when the Justice Department has brought its iron fist down on the Ferguson Police Department?
Well, I'm not exactly sure on what their role is. I know they haven't come in and taken responsibility of police operations in Ferguson. I know they have looked into it, and they are doing active investigations. But to have a Justice Department come in is really going to put the cops on edge, because it shows the working class patrol officers out there that, you know, there's not a lot of support there, and they're being scrutinized on everything they do. And again, I don't think that's the answer. I think that actually just adds to the problem of letting these patrol officers go out there and patrol the neighborhoods. You know, things aren't as bad as they seem over there. Yeah, you look at the criminal element, you look at the riots, the looting, you know, the shootings. That's bad, but calls for service in that area keep increasing. And if it's that bad, why do they keep calling the cops?
Yeah,
You know,
it's a fine line. For instance, the police officers have to walk a fine line. First of all, they're called out to help, and then second of all, they may get shot at for coming to help. What do you think that cops should do in the line of fire in this kind of a case where they're the victims, or they're the targets?
well, like I said before, cops are going to fight back. I mean, you know, you're there to do a job, and you're there to do a job and go home at night, you know, to your family. If you have someone actively firing on you, you're going to fire back. You know, it's a losing battle. You know, situations that taken place, could they've had better outcomes or different outcomes? Yeah, but you know what? Not in the actions of the cops. You know, they've done what they're trained to do. They're defending themselves.
Well, we'll see what happens as the days go on. More protests are planned. Thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.